Hello, everyone, and welcome to ADC Sports Dallas Primetime. I'm Mauricio Rodríguez. Happy Wednesday night. I'm excited for the show. I think that we have some interesting topics to discuss. We'll talk about what Troy Aikman had to say about the Cowboys offense this Wednesday morning on the radio, 96.7 The Ticket. He came hard at the Cowboys offense. He was not holding back. We'll talk about his quote. We'll try to break it down. Later in the show, we'll talk about Mike McCarthy's press conference, what he said about the Cowboys play calling duties, some closing thoughts in the Cowboys 49ers game, and to end the show, as every Wednesday night, one cool thing. So stay tuned. Thank you guys for joining the show. Make sure you hit the like button as you enter the stream. Share the show if you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. Let your friends know about ADC Sports Dallas Primetime. Burner account in the YouTube chat saying, when I die, I want the Dallas Cowboys to be my pallbearer so they can let me down one last time. Burner account, as always, bringing the opening humor here to ADC Sports Dallas Primetime. Samuel saying Troy obviously plays Madden. We'll talk about that. By the way, sad story. I tried to install the college football revamped game. I wasn't able to pull it off. Damn. But anyways, Charlie and Evans, shout out. Thank you for joining the YouTube stream. Joey Vela, thank you for tuning in over at Facebook. The same for Gaston Holloway. Stevie Mac in the house too. Thank you guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And let's start the show officially. Let's talk about what Troy Aikman had to say about the Cowboys offense. Here we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to ADC Sports Dallas Primetime. I'm Mauricio Rodríguez, streaming with you live every Sunday through Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central here on Dallas On-Demand Sports Talk Network, with a lot more content coming your way throughout the entire offseason for the Cowboys and the postseason for the rest of the NFL. Make sure you check out adcsports.com/Dallas for more Cowboys content, more Mavericks content. Check it out every day. New articles are up there on the site, and I hope you enjoy the content on ADC Sports. Thank you guys for tuning in to Primetime. We need to talk about what happened this morning. Troy Aikman had some thoughts to share about the Cowboys offense, and he offered some interesting insight, I believe, because I think he's right. There's a lot of merit to what he said. Let's get into the actual quotes before we try to break it down and before we all chime in the chat, whether you're watching on Facebook and YouTube. Let's talk about what he had to say for those of you who missed the quote. So Troy Aikman was on 96.7 The Ticket, and he had to say, I will read to you the full quote. You can read part of it in the screen. This is what Troy had to say. San Francisco rushed four guys for the most part. They blitz occasionally, but they're a four-man rush football team. But a lot of times when you say that, then you think they're playing coverage. They mixed in some coverage, but there was a lot of single coverage on CeeDee Lamb. I hate going back to when I was playing because nobody cares. But what I see around the league is it's not just Dallas. I've seen it with a lot of teams. A lot of these offenses want to scheme things. The coordinators, it's all about scheme rather than this corner is playing soft. He's scared to death. Just run the route tree. Run a comeback, run a dig route, run a curl, run anything. You're going to complete the pass whenever you want. Michael Irvin would have had 10 catches at halftime if they played us that way they played CeeDee Lamb in that game. The game is not that difficult. If I've got a great player at wide receiver and a corner is playing him single coverage, throw him the ball. He's going to win most of the time. That is what Troy Aikman had to say about the Cowboys passing attack on Sunday. And I got to ask you, do you believe? Because I believe that plenty of people agree with what Troy Aikman had to say. But I got to ask you, do you believe Troy Aikman's quote is aimed at Kellen Moore, Dak Prescott, or both. But I feel like there's a lot of mixed sentiment in Cowboys Nation if you take a look at what is going on Facebook, over at Twitter. People are taking this different ways. So I wanted to get your sentiment on whether do you believe Troy Aikman's quote is aimed at Moore, Dak, or both of them? Because at first it seems like Troy is taking a shot at Kellen Moore, but then you get to that part in which he says, if I've got a great player at wide receiver and a corner is playing him single coverage, throw him the ball, he's going to win most of the time. Let's see. JV Catbuyer says Kellen Moore. At the whole organization says burner account. Dak follows Moore. Lewis says yes. Yeah, that is true. Yes, I agree. All of them are at fault. Joey Vela, though, comes in with saying that's all to Dak Prescott. Raymond as well goes with Dak. Adam says, I'd say vote, if not everyone. I also believe, I would say that both of them, I think that Troy is speaking to the two of them, Kellen and Dak, but I think it's aimed primarily at Kellen Moore. This is just our perception, and it might have to do with the fact that we each feel different about Kellen Moore, Dak Prescott, and stuff. So maybe these are our priors working against us in this conversation. But I think Troy Aikman is very accurate in what he is saying. It might sound very simple, but it might be true that there are some offensive coordinators and head coaches that want to win everything just by scheming up things in place. And don't get me wrong, you need to find a way to make your scheme work. And it doesn't matter who your players are. In the modern NFL, I do believe that you need a strong scheme to win football games, especially when you get to the playoffs. However, I do believe that sometimes we lose sight of the fact that you need to look at the matchups, right? And we saw it in the Amari Cooper touchdown. I think that was the Cowboys taking advantage of the San Francisco 49ers matchup, in which we knew that they were at a weak spot at cornerback, and they're playing them man-to-man coverage. They're going to send 5 rushers in that particular play. It is 3rd and 5. If I'm not mistaken, the Cowboys are already inside the red zone, and it is man-to-man coverage. Amari Cooper is in the slot. You're going to take advantage of that play all day long. The Cowboys didn't get a lot of that, as Troy Aikman was saying. It was a lot of zone coverage, 4-man rush, and maybe a lot of single coverage on CeeDee Lamb. And as he is saying, you need to realize that even if you're expecting, say, cover 2 in that play with 2 high safeties, you need to realize at some point in the game, hey, they're leaving CeeDee Lamb alone in single coverage constantly. You need to trust on him. You need to trust him. Number 88, because a lot of the time we're thinking about the scheme, and I love the quote. I don't even remember where this came from, but I'm always reminded of this phrase, which is, yeah, the X's and O's matter, but this is a Jimmy's and Joe's league. It's about the players, not only about the scheme. So maybe this is primarily on the coordinator, because you're trying to force your game plan, you're trying to force your scheme instead of coming to a point in which you realize, hey, we need to exploit this matchup. And we hear it all the time too. This is a matchup league. You win in the NFL because of matchups. And I just think about this example. It's always been a matchup league. Like, you get the Titans, you get the Bengals in the divisional round. A lot of people were just waiting for a chance to fade the Titans and go against them in the playoffs. But now you get the Bengals in that matchup, and you say, wait a moment, this might be a matchup that actually favors the Bengals, right? So it's all about that. Jessica says, I agree. I think it is on the coordinator. Jonathan says, Amari Cooper is paid like a wide receiver 1, so I don't know. I think there is some wide receiver discussion going on at Facebook. Ninja says, I don't think Kellen Moore has adjusted well, but the offensive line play has been, I will say, trash, instead of, what Ninja is saying over there on YouTube. But I agree. The offensive line actually played pretty bad versus the San Francisco 49ers. And I think that through most of the season, it was a little bit underrated in terms of pass protection. But I believe that the offensive line for the Cowboys is the number one reason why the running game was not working. And do you remember the week before the 49ers game, we were actually talking about the fact that PFF named this unit the number one offensive line in the NFL? I can see the merit to that. And I actually said that I believe it was the most underrated unit on the Cowboys team. But you start to realize that maybe that was in the pass protection side of things. And of course, didn't look like that way versus the 49ers, but I'm talking overall. The Cowboys offensive line was actually maybe not that bad. But in the run game, I believe they struggled mightily because they really did. But at the end of the day, they were top 5, top 6 in pressures allowed. That is maybe the silver lining for this unit, but it might look way different next season. And we'll talk about that maybe next week as well. Sort of got into that conversation last night with Skywalker still here in the show when we were talking about Tyron Smith's contract. You got to wonder if there are big changes coming to the Dallas Cowboys offensive line. Because you know you're moving on from Connor Williams, or at least it is more likely than not that you're going to move on from Connor Williams. But are you going to move on from, say, Tyron Smith because of the contract issue? You really don't know, because who are you going to replace him with? But you cannot ignore the fact that it is actually a possibility. Dallas Young says, all I want is a new scheme and philosophy on offense. I think it would help everyone. And even though that's what we want, I think that we are starting to doubt every day that goes by the fact that it might not happen. We might not get that change of offensive scheme or philosophy, because you start to get into the conversation of what happened on this morning's press conference from Mike McCarthy. And he actually was asked if he's going to take over play calling or if that is something that he is considering. Mike McCarthy straight up said that he is now planning on doing so. And he said that he thinks that the person who installs the offense, in this case, Kellen Moore, is the coach that should be calling the plays. I believe that is correct. I believe that is your ideal situation in the NFL. If you have a guy that is installing the offense, let him call the plays, because you need to be on the same page. And maybe if a different coach is calling these plays, you will get a little bit of, not necessarily confusion, but just you're not going to be on the same page, right? Because it's not your offense that you are running. So this was a little bit controversial, maybe because Cowboys Nation is still mad at Kellen Moore. I strongly feel, and this is just my opinion, and we talked about it last night with Skywalker Steel as well, that, hey, if Kellen Moore is not hired to be a head coach elsewhere, which is looking not unlikely, it is looking unlikely that he lands a head coaching job elsewhere, I believe that Kellen Moore stays on board with the Cowboys. It would be difficult for me to say that this front office will end up moving on from Kellen Moore. So the question for you guys in the chat over at Facebook and YouTube, let's ignore the, the Mike McCarthy answer from this morning. Let's say you were running the Dallas Cowboys organization. Who would you rather have call the plays? Mike McCarthy or Kellen Moore? If you were in charge of the Cowboys organization, who would be calling the plays? Would you let Mike McCarthy try to bounce things around, turn things around the right way after watching what happened with Kellen Moore late in the season? Or would you just rather have Kellen Moore and say, hey, that's the best possibility? Stevie Mack says, I don't go to school, Swaggy. Mauricio Tisby the one in school, though. I haven't seen Crunk in a long time. He disappeared again. I don't know what the context was in that comment over there at YouTube. What is up, Zapata, New York Giants, G's Manic over at Facebook? Thank you for tuning in. I am actually from Mexico. Thank you for tuning in to ADC Sports Dallas Primetime. Let's see. Mike says second half of the season play calling was horrible. And this is actually why I wanted to bring this question up. I know that our thoughts on who should be calling the plays make absolutely zero impact on the way this team is run. But I want to measure just how frustrated Cowboys Nation is right now with its play caller, with Kellen Moore. So the question is, who would you rather have call the plays, McCarthy or Moore? Cat Buyer says, I would go McCarthy. Jameer says, Mike McCarthy. Easy. Joey Vela to, let's see, why even keep Kellen Moore, says Toto Marquez. And I agree with that. I agree with that sentiment. It's just looking difficult, I believe, for the Cowboys. It's looking unlikely that they move on from Kellen Moore. Swaggy goes with McCarthy. Stevie Mack goes with McCarthy. Peter Rizzo says Coach Mike. I have yet to see a Kellen Moore comment. However, we have Shane Carter, writer for ADC Sports Dallas, and I lost his comment. Let me find it real quick. Shane Carter says, if we keep questioning McCarthy's time management issues, why would we want him calling plays? All right. My answer would be, even though I know that right now the two of the options that I'm providing to you in the question are not ideal because we're not necessarily happy with Mike McCarthy nor Kellen Moore, I would argue that you might be better off with Kellen Moore calling the plays, because I am of the opinion that McCarthy is right in saying that it is ideal for the coach who installs the offense to call the plays. And I would just cross my fingers and hope that Kellen Moore is going to fall into a scheme and really stick to it instead of, and I don't mean in an unflexible way, I just mean shy away from the collecting plays philosophy that we saw with the Cowboys in 2021. It was a fun experiment in the first 2 months of the season. There was even an article about it on theringer.com in a positive way, but then late in the season, it started to turn into a negative way because we started to realize this Cowboys offense does not have anything to fall back on when things are going south. So I would say Kellen Moore is my answer to the question. I would much rather have Kellen Moore continue to call the plays because otherwise, I don't know just how functional that relationship would be if you take away the play calling responsibilities for Kellen Moore. Plus, I don't know if I trust Mike McCarthy calling the plays either. Not necessarily because of what Shane said, because I do believe that time management and play calling duties are of course different. I would assume that if McCarthy is calling the plays, you would get him a lot of help in the time management department in game. But I'm not sure if I love McCarthy calling the plays because I do believe that the Cowboys would fall back to a scheme, which is what I want to see from the Cowboys in 2022. But I would much rather have Kellen Moore continue to call the plays. Dallas Young brings up an interesting point, though. He says, well, McCarthy didn't run a lot when he called plays in Green Bay. Jameer says Kellen should stay to gain experience to become a better offensive coordinator in the future. Let's see. Burner Account has an interesting question as well. He says, Mo, when was the last time Dallas had a creditable coaching staff? I know recency bias is working against us this week. And I know that it ended up not working in the playoffs versus the 49ers. But honestly, I kind of feel like this might fit into the creditable conversation, excuse me. You have a Super Bowl winning head coach at the head of the Cowboys. You have Dan Quinn, who took the Falcons to the Super Bowl as a head coach and had a lot of experience as a defensive coordinator in these big games, including the Super Bowl when he was with the Seattle Seahawks. And then Kellen Moore, of course, he might not have the curriculum and all of that, but you have a guy that, again, recency bias working against us right now, but this was around the entire NFL a rising star in the coaching ranks. Did not have a good 2021, definitely, but he was named as a rising star in the entire NFL. Heck, he's getting the head coach interviews right now by NFL franchises. So I think the coaching staff, up to some point, you need to give them some credit to maybe fit into that description, even though it ended up not working in 2021. Iceberg says Matt Nagy for offensive coordinator. I think Matt Nagy will fall somewhere too. I don't know if I would like him with the Cowboys though, but I think he's going to get some interviews. Parcells' burner account, and Stevie Mac also goes with probably the Parcells group because, yeah, I feel like we're skipping the entire Jason Garrett era and we're not really going to consider them in this question. You might have an argument to say that, hey, this coaching staff, at least on paper, you were looking at a creditable coaching staff. Again, even though it didn't end up working for the Cowboys. Mike McCarthy says the real Darrell had a fat Eddie Lacy as his running back in Green Bay. Honestly, says Dallas Young, can't wait for the draft videos and free agent videos. It is going to be fun to cover the offseason here on ADC Sports Dallas Primetime, by the way. It is going to be fun. Joel says Tony Romo for offensive coordinator or quarterback coach. And even though I know where that is coming from, of course, that is not going to happen because Romo is getting paid at CVS right now. So don't expect him to leave the booth anytime soon. Gilbert went even farther back in time and he said, I think Jimmy Johnson, and fired Jerry Jones. Jimmy Johnson, of course, is like the minimum answer, right? That's the cutoff point. You can say the Parcells group. You can say, if you are maybe a little bit more optimist like I am right now, saying that at least on paper we felt good about this coaching staff. LOL, hard to ignore a decade of the red clapper, says a burner account. Yeah. Stevie Mac says, let's sweep the Jason Garrett years under the rug and pretend the clapping never happened. It is hard to wipe away that decade, as burner account was saying. Sean Payton, head coach, get Troy Aikman as general manager. Yeah, that would be like a fun scenario to cover because of Cowboys fans and stuff. And hey, the Broncos might be, I don't know if you guys saw that, the Broncos fans might get a similar conversation to that to us feels like a far-fetched dream maybe that is not going to happen because of what we just said. But Peyton Manning the Mannings are interested in buying the Denver Broncos franchise. How awesome would that be to see the Mannings be owners of an NFL team? Honestly, I'm here for it, and I would love to cover that storyline. But anyways, let's move on. Let's have some closing thoughts on the Cowboys 49ers game. Rewatch the game, as painful as it was. Here are some quick takes that I had. I would say that one of the biggest problems that I feel still exists for the Cowboys offense is just how static it is. I was listening to the Athletic Football Show this morning with Robert Mays. He brought up an interesting point before I rewatched the game in its entirety. And he said that he mentioned McCarthy and Rodgers when they were in Green Bay. And he mentioned the fact that Rodgers didn't like a lot of motion because he liked to have a static image of the defense and of the offense and just kind of know where everyone was lined up. He mentioned that, and then he compared it to the high praise that Dak Prescott has always received about being a master pre-snap. Dak Prescott is a guy that can walk up to the line of scrimmage and really get a very, very nice picture of the defense and try to figure it out before snapping the football. We've always known that pre-snap deciphering has been a strong point for Dak Prescott. And Robert Mays suggested, and this is just pure speculation, I believe, from Robert Mays, who hosts this podcast for The Athletic. He said, maybe the Cowboys are kind of leaning into that Prescott comfort of trying to figure out things pre-snap. And then he argued, and I liked his argument. I kind of agree with it that maybe the Cowboys need to push him a little bit out of that comfort zone so they can implement a lot of motion at the snap, pre-snap motion, more play action, and all of these shifts that you see in the modern offenses like the 49ers, like even the modern Packers right now with Matt LaFleur, of course, Andy Reid and the Chiefs, Josh Allen and the Bills. They're doing all of this stuff to gain an advantage on offense that maybe the Cowboys have not explored yet. And maybe that is because Dak Prescott wants it that way, as Robert Mays suggested. Maybe it has nothing to do with it. But I think it's an interesting question to pose after rewatching the 49ers game, because it does feel like a very static offense. The Cowboys have not been able to run the football at all, even though they're facing light boxes, because everyone is dropping back into coverage, yet the Cowboys cannot find a way to run the football. And maybe that has to do with how static they have been on offense. I have one positive takeaway, and it might be controversial, but I promise you that if you rewatch the game, you will somewhat agree with me. I think that La'el Collins had a solid game versus Nick Bosa. You're not going to win every single battle versus Bosa. He's one of the best edge rushers in the entire NFL. But if you take a look at it, when he was one-on-one with 97, he won plenty of those battles. So just a positive takeaway from the game. Now that we're all frustrated, I don't see anything wrong with, sprinkling in some good thoughts regarding the Cowboys offense. And then, oh man, let me see if I can actually find this picture, because I forgot to load it into the streaming service that I use. But I don't know if you guys saw that play in which, all right, here, I've got the picture right here. Let me see if there is a way for me to quickly download it just to show you what I'm talking about. There was this play, 2nd and 7, when the Cowboys walk out with two extra offensive linemen, and that is Connor McGovern, Terrence Steele, just like your usual inverted wishbone formation that the Cowboys first revealed in the Vikings game. Let me see if I can. I am not finding a way to share my screen right now with you guys. But anyways, and I'm thinking when I'm watching the game, cool, max protect. We've been talking about it on Primetime. We've been talking about it on Twitter. Max protect, manufacture those deep shots. And then both Terrence Steele and Connor McGovern run out on routes. And to me, and I tweeted this at Mau NFL, that's MAU NFL, they both run out. They both run out on their routes. They're kind of open, but then Terrence Steele actually claps for the football, and that was funny to me. I cannot lie to you. That was actually funny to me. Let me see if I can share the screen real quick with you guys. I don't know if I can, though. I don't know if I can. I think I cannot. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to do so. I promise to show you the play next time, maybe. But I'm sure you guys know what play I'm talking about. All right. I don't know what I'm doing right now. Anyways. All right. There you go. Forget about what I was saying. Anyways, I was struggling with the StreamYard service right now. Sorry about that. You notice a lack of a fullback hurting Ezekiel Elliott, says Kat Beyer. T-Dub says Bosa got off on stunts when he would go all the way to Connor Williams' side. Something that we saw right away, opening drive, 3rd down. Connor Williams never stood a chance versus Nick Bosa in this particular play. I agree with T-Dub, but La'el Collins, one-on-one versus Nick Bosa, not bad at all. The streams have been booming lately. Good stuff, Mo. Thank you to Dallas Junk, and thank you to all of you who are tuning in to ADC Sports Dallas Primetime every night. Do me a favor, hit the like button, especially if you enjoy what you are watching. Hit the like button. Let us grow here on YouTube and on Facebook as well. Thank you. Stevie Mack saying, you guys watched the Mike McCarthy conference. That was bad. Mike wasn't doing himself any favors with that one, says Stevie Mack. I have mixed feelings about that. because definitely, definitely a lot of weird moments between them. I think that the few that stood out the most is Mike McCarthy talking about the quarterback draw. And I cannot lie to you. I am done with the quarterback draw conversation. And we discussed it earlier in the week here on Primetime. I gave you my thoughts on why the idea behind running that quarterback draw was maybe not as bad as many would tell you. And the fact that, hey, it was just terribly executed. But then McCarthy said that you don't need to give the ball to the refs. And he tried to defend Dak Prescott because of it, and the fact that they try to set the ball by themselves instead of handing it to the official. And I understand where he's coming from, but he's saying that the official just needs to tap the football instead of actually set it. But you just need to go back, watch the replay, and notice that the line judge is about 2 yards behind where Tyler Biadasz and Dak Prescott set the football. And when you don't set the football correctly in place, then the official is not just going to tap the football. He's going to make sure that the spot is more or less accurate. In these sorts of situations, maybe there is room for error, but the Cowboys clearly were about 1 full yard or close to 2 yards actually in front of the line judge. So it was a bad moment for Mike McCarthy. Then there was a nervous comment. Mike kept trying to blame the refs to Stevie Mack. Yeah, and that actually sucked. Listen, if you say that kind of stuff post-game, you can get a pass on that. But man, you cannot say that with days of thought, right? That's what I didn't like. Then there was a nervous comment. Stevie Mack is saying, why the hell would Mike say the room felt nervous before they took the field? And Broadus brought back up just to make him look like even more of a dope. LOL. Yeah, because McCarthy said that they were nervous before the game, and then he was quick to take back the nervous word. He was like, let me take that back really quick. But that was not promising at all, especially when you take a look at how the 49ers walked out of their locker room. You see them all confident, carrying the boombox. That's one of those moments in which, in hindsight, you kind of go, yeah, it makes sense. The final scoreboard kind of makes sense. Mike saying that they definitely needed to spread the ball more in the game and not giving a reason why they didn't just shows you how much of a dope he and Kellen are. LOL. I'm new here, searching, ready. Oh, that is a bot, I believe. Oh my God. I just read a bot comment. That's our coach Yaltz's burner account. The real Darrell says that could have passed to Schultz on that final play and clocked the ball. He could have, maybe. I think so. That was a fail. Put that in the bloopers highlight reels, even though it is January. Have that ready for the New Year's, right? Why not call 2 plays in the huddle? I hate the calls, says Cat Buyer. Quick thought on the quarterback draw. Why not call 2 plays in the huddle? All right, yeah. That makes sense. Try to set up really quickly and have another play. Stevie Mack. Oh, come on, man. After 10 years of Garrett, the best we can do is Mike McCarthy, says burner account. Monkey Butt McCarthy. Oh, my God. All right, yeah, I understand the frustration. Let us close the show with a one cool thing. As always, for those of you guys who are new here on ADC Sports Dallas Primetime, every Wednesday night, we do one cool thing. This can be something personal, something professional, something sports related. So the question is, what is your one cool thing of the week? Let's try to end this show on a positive note. Remember, personal thing. You can also share a professional thing, a sports-related thing, whatever you want. Make sure you let us know in the chat what is your one cool thing of the week. I realize that this time around, it's a little bit tougher to find one because the Cowboys were eliminated from playoff contention. However, I will tell you mine while you tell me yours in the chat. Your one cool thing of the week. Mine is that none other than defending reigning, defending, undisputed flyweight champion of the world, the first ever UFC Mexican champion, is defending his title this Saturday. Brandon Moreno back in the cage. Fun fact about me, I love fights. I love combat sports, especially MMA, especially, of course, the UFC. Brandon Moreno, first title defense. I am hyped for that one. I gotta tell you something. I don't know if I can handle 2 consecutive heartbreaking sports moments. So hopefully Brandon Moreno gets the job done on Saturday versus Figueiredo. I absolutely hate the fact that it is against Figueiredo once again, because for those of you who are not aware of the UFC, who do not follow the UFC, this is the 3rd straight time that these two face each other in the cage. That would be my one cool thing of the week. I'm so excited because I gotta tell you, one of the most exciting moments of my life as a sports fan was Brandon Moreno choking out Davison Figueiredo to win the title. It means a lot to have that successful athlete in the UFC in Mexico. Let's see. Let's take a look at some of your one cool thing of the week. Stevie Mac saying, I can finally taste and smell things again. Hey, when I went through it, I didn't experience that. I would assume that feels like a one cool thing. Shout out to Stevie Mac. Burner account saying, I hit 2 years sobriety against the booze. Was tempted last Sunday though. LOL. Burner account. Not only is this a tremendous one cool thing to add to the show, just congratulations, a legit congratulations to Burner account. Michael says, one cool thing, mock draft season starts now. That is right. Are we going to implement a weekly mock draft season segment to Primetime? Is that something that you guys would like? Let me know in the YouTube chat or in the Facebook chat. LV is finally off the team. That is cruel, but I respect it. Dallas Young says, you're like my brother. He loves the UFC. It is such a tremendous sport. If you guys have not tried it, I really recommend watching Saturday's event. It is going to be electric. Not cool. It's sad, our Cowboys tailgate party, but Buzz was ready today for Tampa, says Cat Buyer. Yeah, that is definitely not cool. T-Dub says, my one cool thing, I once again get to see the great Aaron Rodgers choke in the playoffs. Hey, so T-Dub is out there throwing out a divisional round prediction. We'll get into the games, by the way, tomorrow night. I know that the Cowboys are not in the playoffs, but I think we can have some fun previewing the divisional round. So we'll do that tomorrow night. Charlene Evans saying, my one cool thing for the week was to see Skywalker Steele and Mauricio Rodríguez on each other's show. Charlene, thank you for that. I respect it. Queen was horrible as head coach, says the real Darrell. I ordered buffalo wings and fries just to celebrate, says TV Mac. All right, let's see if we have some other one cool thing before we leave tonight's show. Don't forget, Senior Bowl is coming up soon, room. Should be good. An exciting change, by the way, for the Senior Bowl. For those of you who have not seen the news, it seems like, I think it seems like, what was the rule change? Coordinators or assistant coaches are actually going to have the chance to take the reins over the Senior Bowl team. So say the Cowboys end up coaching a Senior Bowl team. Mike McCarthy is not going to have the role of a head coach, but it's going to be assistant coaches taking over. And I think that is exciting because you give coaches the opportunity to showcase their abilities as well. Definitely, that is exciting. Oh, burner account is going to see Bill Vore in April. Hey, that definitely is fun. Vore is so funny. I envy Tom Down his burner account. All right, guys, let's get out of here. Thank you for tuning in to ADC Sports Dallas Primetime. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for choosing to listen to Primetime every Sunday through Thursday night, 8 p.m. Central. I'm your host, Mauricio Rodríguez. Make sure you check out adcsports.com/Dallas And I will see you tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Central, here on Dallas On Demand Sports Talk Network. Thank you, guys. I will see you tomorrow night.